let me ask you, what does it take to remain? What does it take to endure, to keep putting your art, your expression, your vulnerability, your doubts, and yourself out there? You know, artists have been asking and answering these questions for centuries. Galleries are full of paintings identifying artists. Cathedrals stand as testaments to God's greatness, but also to the artisans and the craftsmen who devoted themselves over centuries to something greater than themselves, to building a lasting imprint on culture. But what is all of the art, all of the literature, and all of the music, but one person saying to another, "I was here, don't forget me"? Isn't that why we take iconic photographs, why we immortalize ourselves in timeless fashion, in writing and in poetry? All these shared human experiences are one person saying to another, "I see you." I read the best thing last week. It was from Jeff Goins, and it said this: "Do you know why birds sing just before dawn? Scientists believe that it's to tell their mates that they made it through the night, as a way of saying, I am still here." And maybe that's why we sing too. Maybe that's why we create art, as a way of saying, I made it. I'm still here. And so let me ask you today, are you still singing? Do you still feel like you are here, in the game, in full flight, creating, trusting, hoping, and believing? Or has the night season got the better of you? A little while ago, I was sitting in LA talking to Joel Houston, and we were talking about a story, and he said in an outer suburb of New York, the artists had claimed the cheapest districts in which to practice their art. They couldn't afford apartments in Soho or Manhattan or the Upper East Side. But down in Williamsburg, they found cheaper real estate and a community of like-minded people that bred expression and creativity, art, music, fashion, and vibrancy. And as they took over the district, it came alive with life and colour and hope, all the things that the creatives bring to the world, which was amazing until it attracted the attention of the middle class. And then everybody wanted to move into that neighbourhood to take advantage of the beauty and the style that they had embedded into life there. And all of a sudden, you can imagine what happened. The property prices soared and started to increase. And the artists, well, they were priced out of the market. You see, it became too costly for them to remain and to live there. And so they were forced out. You know, I know many artists who have inhabited this space in church. But the reality of life and the harshness of the seasons, the grief, the loss, the vulnerability, could have taken them out. There is a cost, creatives, to choose to remain, to choose to stay inspired, creating, producing, a choice to remain true, full of integrity, hopeful, choice to remain in church, in community, Christian, and loyal to Jesus. And sometimes the price can seem too high to pay. But Jesus, he reminds us as artists and as disciples that it costs everything that we have to follow him. And so in this session today, David Ware, Laura Toggs, and I want to introduce you to some incredible artists in this session and in our magazine that hopefully you've had a chance to look at, who in spite the cost are still here, still loving Jesus. Because let me tell you, artists still live here.
My name is Rochelle Dusting and I'm a fine artist from Perth. In conceptualising this artwork, I wanted to create a design that would be significant to the site and local community. I was awarded the commission by a thriving local church. It was the first public artwork of this scale to exist in the area. I drew the design freehand within the grids of the concrete wall that measures 40 metres long and 14 metres high. Close to home is the title of this artwork. It's a metaphor inspired by the display of local banksias and the black red-tailed cockatoo. It was my hope that in displaying this particular subject matter, it would encourage people from the region to take ownership of the artwork as a landmark of their home. This area of Perth is also where I spent my childhood, an area built up from what was largely swampland until the early 2000s. One of the things I love about large-scale public art is that it inspires the imaginations of passers-by and celebrates the beauty that surrounds community members in their everyday, mundane moments. Erwin McManus actually talks about creativity and how it should be an everyday experience, as common as breathing. We breathe and therefore we create. We see this right at the beginning of the word, as God breathed life into creation, a stunning act of creativity that our very existence depends on, now common to us all. Art demonstrates the genius of God, allowing His glory to be on full display through us for all to experience. They are powerful symbols of life and creativity, both ephemeral and permanent marks that allow us to establish location in the same way that art enables a sense of place. Artworks like these elevate the value of community and celebrate being close to home.
Melvin Tanaya,
Hey, buddy.
thank you for being here with us today. An
Thank you for
artist
having
to
me.
live here. You are one half of the Fashion House Song for the Mute. Is that correct?
Correct.
Just want to get my facts straight.
Yes, that's correct.
And you've been doing it for 11 years now, which is incredible. Congratulations on your
Thank you.
longevity. And I mean, you don't look, we're the same age, you don't look like you would have been doing this for 11 years. So it's a little bit threatening for me at the moment. No, I'm kidding. And so you live in the space of creativity in terms of fashion. Tell us a little bit of how you got started. How did this come to be? How did you get from Melvin, the little kid, to Melvin who creates pieces of art?
To be honest, it started as a side project. You know, we never really kind of wanted, we wanted to start a business, especially when myself and Lena, my business partner, we both had proper jobs that we thought that was going to be our career. You know, it's something that I really wanted to kind of get, and we got that. But it's always in the back of my mind to kind of have something that I could call my own. So I had this concept for a brand, but back then I didn't know anything about fashion. I didn't have any prior knowledge or network in the industry. So when I paired up with Lena, because Lena won the scholarship in White House, she went to Italy and she had all this kind of like amazing skills that, you know, she was able to share. All I had was just the concept. And so I had to kind of like study. I had a textbook on how to run a fashion business, and I just kind of followed it up like T by T, just so I could contribute something to the brand. But yeah, since then it's just been like, I still don't know how to sew a button, to be honest. But you know, I've always liked clothes, you know, and I'm fascinated of how like things are made from the yarn and to the final product. But yeah, it's
awesome. We were talking briefly before, and we wanted to keep this authentic and not rehearsed at all. And so we haven't really talked about any of these questions, but you did happen to mention something. You know, you started the label 11 years ago. When was it that you made a decision to serve Jesus?
Oh, yeah, I remember, like I told you, I go to the city campus in Waterloo with my family for all these years. But I remember, I think it was just after high school. I've grown up with faith, like we go to church since I was little, but I never made that decision for myself until I was here and I was sitting up right there.
In this room?
And Robert Ferguson was talking, and something just spoke to me and I kind of put my hand up. And that was, I think my parents were there too. And that was, like, it's a day that I will never forget, you know?
Incredible.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know, man, like this thing, you know, you're gonna ask me all these questions, and I feel like it's literally like it's been through God's wonder that I'm being able to do this, and it's just been such a blessing that I get this opportunity to share this with you. So yeah, I've been watching you on the screen, you know, like every week. So
oh, it's our honor. It's our honor. As a believer, then, and then being called into like an industry, for lack of a better term, being called into this industry, to stay in theme, I guess, living in this space as an artist. There would have been times where you've had to innovate. There would have been adversity that you had to overcome. It can't have just been like easygoing the whole time. Talk to us a little bit about that, your journey from the conception, the idea you said to now, and some of the adversity as a believer, even just in business that you've faced through the years?
Yeah, it was never about the money for us. It's just about sharing our story. Just because coming from an Asian background, creativity was often seen as a dead end. And the biggest adversity that we had to kind of overcome was telling our parents and our family, our friends, saying that like we want to do this instead of like a job that would give us stability or like continue the family business. So that's, I think, was the biggest thing, and it still remains like a thing that a lot of our audience hold dear to the brand. It's we're Song for the Mute, the name itself, it's about speaking out for the people who doesn't have the chance to. Because as unique as you think you are in the world, there's always someone out there experiencing the same thing. So every collection that we do, if you follow the brand, if you go on the website, you see like it's chapters. It looks like chapters numbers because every collection that we do, it's literally a snapshot, a documentation of what my life and Lena's life is like through garments and spaces and stuff like this. So yeah, like to be able
So it's literally like a song without using a voice.
Yeah,
That's a way of
it's
telling
for,
a story.
and a lot of our clients, they go into the brand because they feel like it's an expression of who they are. And for me, that's all we wanted to do. We just wanted to share our story in the hopes that someone else can relate to it and be inspired to do something. Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible. So, I mean, the pieces are beautiful. These are your pieces right here, or at least some of them, a little bit.
Yes.
What's some of the upcoming things that you guys are looking forward to as Song for the Mute?
That's a lot. I think
It's a loaded question.
Yeah.
'Cause I already know, but I'm not sure if you're allowed to tell people.
Yeah. No. It's incredible, the news that we've got. So in 2022, we're going to be releasing a global collaboration with Adidas, and this is the first time I'm saying it out loud. And it's the first time they're collaborating with an Australian designer in this scale. So I'm really looking forward to that. But we have now 81 stockers around the world. We have a shop-in-shop in Harrods in the UK. That still blows my mind when I say it, because you get trapped into the nuts and bolts of it all. But days like this, like to be able to kind of share the stage to kind of like just tell a story, it's the most rewarding thing out of the whole thing. Like it's the community that we've built, like the customers that we meet, the mills that we work with, and just the network of people that I've been able to meet through this. It's the one that blows anything out of the water, I think.
That's incredible. I've known you for about almost 4 years now.
Yeah.
And what I love is the story that your life tells. And sitting here right now, pretend it's not me, pretend it's, 12-year-old Melvin. Yeah. What would you say to 12-year-old self, knowing everything you know, gone through everything that you've gone through?
Yep.
What would you say to the young Melvin who has this concept, this little idea, this dream?
I thought about this actually, and Ethan, my nephew, just it's his birthday today, who turned 13. So happy birthday, Ethan. I would tell him like it's okay not to know what you want to do yet. Don't stress out about that. Just enjoy your teenage years. God will put something in you. I think that kind of gives you that seed of idea. And it's okay to make mistakes. I think that's a lot of like people are like procrastinating and not, really scared to do something because they make that mistake. But I still make mistakes, and I'll just make sure that you learn from it and keep creating ways that is authentic to you and that is meaningful to you. Because if you believe in what you're doing, someone out there will relate, and that will form your audience. Yeah, I think I would say that.
So good. Well, thank you. Thank you for being an artist. Thank you for living in this space and allowing us to briefly look at a snapshot at that.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And he's getting a lot of love in the auditorium right now. But right now we're going to go to a conversation with two friends who come from Christchurch, from Majestic Church, and have started dance studios in Christchurch, New Zealand, also in Brisbane in Australia, and just recently in LA. And it's Ali and Andre, we call him Dre Hansen. So check it out.
Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
It's that whole thing where we're out of chaos. There's opportunities to create new things. There's always something beautiful can spring up out of that. And even for the church and the building, our majestic building, it's like a kind of a crazy metaphor, because as a church, we were always focused on the arts, very driven. Okay, how do we get Jesus to the city? We want to use the arts, and also we want to have a focus on the youth, because you're always, one generation away from extinction when it comes to the church. So the investment in the youth was a real focus for us as well. It's like the whole thing, like what you sow into the soil will still continue to grow. And I think the whole idea of, even as artists, if we get pushed on or moved on, or even in this season where we feel locked down or restrained or whatever, if we're investing into places and spaces and communities, even if we're pushed on or moved on or feel that way, good things can still grow from those places.
We find a lot of people that have come through our space have been dancers that have moved here, that have given up.
Wow.
And they're working a production job, it's like so many. They moved here 5 years ago to really pursue their dream of dance, and then it's just like too tough. And then they're like, sweet, let's get a production job, and that'll be it. It is a difficult space to live in. You've got to really be tough. You've got to be tough to be rejected all the time, and still maintain that sense of self-worth. For your own sanity and your own health, this is a gift that's been given to you to steward. So it's sometimes not even about what you feel. It's about, this is actually from the depths of you, like this little passion. And it's amazing, because it's caught, isn't it? Like, as you get around people that are like-minded, like the importance of doing this conference can actually fuel and spark that fire in somebody to keep on going for another day, And I heard Rich Wilkinson was talking on Sunday, and he was like, sometimes it's about survival, when it comes to people struggling with mental health and suicidal thoughts and all that. Sometimes it's just getting up every day and going, I'm going to breathe today and I'm going to survive this day. And maybe that's how we have to approach our art. We love this. We're called to this. We can keep doing this.
Time has never changed who you are. Change is all my heart has been searching for. I never knew how much I needed you. I need you. And faith is all you said you were looking for. But faith is often what I have lacked the most. And still I cannot shake this feeling, this longing. I could pray till my knees bleed or overthrow 1,000 kings and still not really know who you are. Build a ship to reach the stars or win over 1 billion hearts, but nothing comes close enough to you. understand. When I get ambitious, you laugh at my plans. 'Cause you hold the world in your hands. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. 'Cause you hold the world in your hands. Ooh, you hold the world in your
I've always been fascinated with cameras, taking a moment and archiving it in time. I studied photography in high school, but most of the kids dropped out and the class closed. Over the years, I'd find myself coming back to it from time to time. But back then, I'd never considered myself an artist. I wasn't good enough. But the obsession is something that I could just never escape from. Interest has now turned to passion and profession. This is who I am. I love travelling the world, finding new places, adventures, moments, and making art. Now with my family with me, this is it. This is who I am. My name is Ben Mackay, and I'm an artist, and I still live here.
Well, hello everybody. I am so honoured to be joined right now with the one and only Makaisha, who is joining us from New York. And Makaisha is a very gifted and talented young gal. She is a singer and songwriter and musician, worship leader, just all-round leader, but also a voice to things that really matter and things that are important. And so I am so honored, Makaisha, that we get to have a little conversation over the next few minutes.
I'm so honored to be here and so glad we could make this little trans-Pacific Zoom happen.
Yeah, it's really special. And so I'm just going to get straight into it. So, you are, what we would call, I think, a promising young creative today. Can you tell us a little bit about, your creative journey and how you came to be where you are today?
Yeah. I grew up not so much in a musical family, but two very musical cultures. My dad is Tongan and my mum is Aboriginal South Sea Islander. And just every family gathering that we had, there was someone with a guitar, there was someone with a boombox or a speaker playing music. So I just think music was part of my upbringing and it just felt very instinctual and very natural. And it kind of just happened that I also liked to sing and write songs and perform on a stage.
Yeah. So as well as being a gifted artist, you are a role model. You are definitely a leader in both church, but also in the wider community. And I love that about you, is that you have so much scope, and so has that been something that has always come naturally to you?
I've grown up in the Aboriginal community my whole life. I was introduced to that community before I was introduced to church community. So I feel like the women in my life, my mum, my aunties, had taught me how to be in community, what my responsibilities are to my community, and I guess kind of understanding that balance of my community has done so much for me. And not because they've done so much for me, I should do the same for them, but because we have a cultural responsibility to one another to bring change and to uplift our young people and to respect our elders and just to highlight and amplify the rich histories of First Nations peoples in Australia. And so when I joined the church community, it was like that exact same feeling, just different kinds of people from different places around the world, different contexts. And so I was used to that feeling. It felt like home. It felt like people were open and welcoming, and it was the same thing. You're being poured into and you're pouring into that community as well. So it really was the Aboriginal community that taught me that relationship and how to take from and learn from a community, as well as investing in and kind of bringing your 2 cents to the table as well.
Yeah. I think that's so crucial when it comes to leading, like just having that sense of responsibility and awareness for those who have gone before us for generations upon generations, and then being able to take that mantle upon ourselves, hey, and carry that for the generations to come. I think that's so crucial. And it's true, you do it so naturally. And I think I like what you said a few weeks ago when we were talking, when you were like, I don't know, I'm here for a good time. Like it all just flows out of you, who you are. I love it. Well, I really am personally just so inspired by the way that, Indigenous cultures, honor their ancestors and those who have gone before them. And so as a proud Aboriginal and Tongan woman, what does honoring your heritage and ancestors look like for you?
For me, it's always just navigating spaces authentically and truthfully, and particularly in this season, like being in the States, for me, it's been about not compromising little things like my vernacular, or not compromising my accent, or not being quiet in moments where I feel like I need to speak up about First Nations and Tongan issues. In some ways, having no filter, but also having a filter. It's kind of finding that balance of like, okay, I need to speak up now, or okay, it's time for me to represent this part of me.
As someone who uses their art and platform to bring light to causes that you are passionate about, what would you say about how creativity and justice can come together and bring change?
I think a lot of people throughout history have always said that change and justice never comes without creativity or music to challenge what's happening at that specific time, or to reflect what's happening at that time. And music is a powerful tool because everyone listens to music, and everyone's constantly discovering music and consuming it. And so it's a really powerful tool to kind of deliver a message to people that don't necessarily want to hear that message. So it's about it's an education tool, really, to kind of open up a whole world, open up these experiences to people and be like, hey, this is like what our lives have been like for generations, for decades. You can bubble wrap that into a nice little pop song or R&B song or whatever it may be for people to listen to, and not only understand the lyrics, but feel what that feels like through the music and through the vocals or whatever it may be. So I use music primarily as a tool to express whatever's happening in my mind, but also strategically to tell stories that will change people's perspective or view on Aboriginal people, or will help them understand a part of our experience a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love it. I often think that God, he was so, we know that he was so purposeful when he created music, because they say that it's like that universal language that everybody understands. And so you can bring all the complexities and different layers and dimensions of life and culture, and yet it just translates and it's understood. So it's so powerful, and you do it beautifully. You do it incredibly. And so thank you for your time, and we love you, and we're so proud of you, and I can't wait to hopefully see you and give you a hug at Christmas.
Same. I cannot wait.
Well, we've just heard some incredible stories, seen into the lives of a few artists that are just in our world. And I love hearing their why. I love figuring out what makes them tick, why they get up in the morning. But the big question we wanted to ask in this session was, why do we still live here? Why do we live in the creative space as believers? And the truth is, to answer that, I think one has to ask themselves, why do I still live here? If I'm honest, that's a question I probably ask more frequently than I'm happy to admit. Why do I get up every day and commit myself to creating and getting better as a creative? Why, as a believer, is it important for me to dwell in this space of creativity and worship? Is it simply because I need to provide for my family? Is it because I need to feel successful, like I'm good at something? Is it because I'm only good at this one thing and so that I just got to do it? Maybe it's because God has given me these gifts and the reasonable thing and responsible thing for me to do is to use them and not neglect them. Is it because I've been told my whole life that I can't do a certain thing? And so in defiance, we try to attack the odds that were stacked against us to prove some of those voices wrong. Maybe you just feel like you have nothing else. And so this is what you've left and what you found in your hands, and so you do it. You know, what I've come to believe is that it really is all of these things, but also none of these things. Rochelle, who told her story, she did the amazing giant mural. She says, we're created to breathe, and so we breathe. And in the same way, we're made to create, and so we should create. Through loss and through grief, through mistakes, failures, missed opportunities, and even success, it's important that I still live here because it was by design. It's by design that I should take harmony or color, light and shade to point to a higher power that seeks to be known and glorified, who has established an ancient pathway and calls me on to lay new roads for others to find their own why, to find their home. That's my why. So why do we still live here collectively as creative people? I think it's because we have always lived here. Throughout the ruins of history, there has always been an ancient pathway laid by creative believers, and from it has always emerged a new generation of artisan souls who continue to lay down the pathway of this new road, brick by brick, lyric by lyric, melody by melody, brushstroke upon brushstroke, edit upon edit, from lens to lens. God has allowed us to be carried by other creatives who have pointed us to Him, and He calls us on to be carriers for His glory. Are you an artist? Maybe you've felt like you wanted to give up. Maybe you felt stuck in this season. I want to encourage you, and if you've not heard anything else from these past stories from Melvin and Rochelle, that it's worth it to find your why and to also recognize there is a collective why, that we should still live here. So I want you to do something, might seem odd, but it would mean a lot to me, and I think this would make it a significant moment. I want you to say your name like this. My name is David. I want you to say that, and then I want you to say this: I am an artist and I still live here. And I want you to wake up tomorrow and go after that thing that God has called you to do in this creative landscape. Let's say it together. I'm going to say it, you say it with me, all right? My name is David. I am an artist and I still live here. Thank you so much for joining us for Artists Still Live Here 2021.